Thank you everyone for joining and spending the time with us today to talk about um, open source Selenium to Katalon testing. This is a huge topic in the industry today. There is a lot of users who we know who are using Selenium and have been used to Selenium over the past few years and really passionate about it. And Katalon is definitely and I would say a really good adopter of the Selenium framework and taking some of the best practices that you would see in the best implementations of Selenium. And we've built a fantastic product on top of using some of those methodologies from Selenium to make it easier for our testing community and ensure that every single tester has a great experience with the tool. Today, I have Suraj from QualityKiosk, who's a QA practice head there. Suraj, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, hi, thanks, Google. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live exclusive webinar on open source Selenium to Katalon. So basically, myself, Suraj Jadhav, I've been working with QualityKiosk for more than a decade. I've been heading all the kind of QA engagements, especially on automation, and Katalon as a tool has been a pioneer for us in automation, where we have kind of done a lot of transformation projects and while working with few of our clients, this thought came to our mind what can we do more in terms of really moving from open source to Katalon from where the journey started off and where we are today we'll want to kind of give you a brief in terms of what we'll want to do hereafter. So look forward for an exciting webinar with all of you.
Great. Just to introduce myself, I'm Gokul. I head up solution engineering for Katalon. That involves talking to a lot of customers and ensuring that our customers have a great experience with Katalon, as well as our community users have a great experience with the free offering that we have with Katalon as well. So look forward to an interactive session today. So let's dive right in. I'm going to talk about the quick agenda for today. So the agenda for today is we're going to talk about the open source problems, about why it's a challenge, what are the advantages and disadvantages in general of what we see, why is Katalon a nice alternative, and how we came across the Selenium to Katalon converter as an idea, and show some magic, right? I think that's what you're all here for, is to look at the magic. We'll get to that pretty quickly. I'll cover a couple of slides and then we'll hand it over to Suraj. So if you look at, what Selenium is at its core, Selenium automates browsers, right? We all know it's a framework. What you do with it is totally up to you. And that is probably the most of the advantage when it comes to Selenium, right? You have your testers, you have your architects who have to build and create these frameworks over a period of time, and that takes a lot of effort. And the effort translates into, installing prerequisite environments or downloading libraries or making sure you have a great design pattern and then building a basic framework, right? These are all different steps that you have to take. In order to build a really good framework, you need to have good automation architects who are proficient in that aspect and spend a lot of time on that, right? So there's a lot of time and effort that it takes for building a framework. And that could be potentially 30 to 50 hours to build a basic framework. And to just write a simple framework, you need to write about 300 to 400 lines of code. So significant experience is needed. And there is a lot of work that's required, and testing is not even started, right? You're building a lot of the framework, but you haven't started testing yet. So your testing team has now become a development team. And that is kind of where a lot of the challenge that our customers face and move into Katalon today. So this is something that would be useful for them, right? And then once you create that framework in an open source project, you would then have to create tests. And there's a lot of work that needs to happen for writing a test in the framework that you write, like creating a sample test scenario, making sure you create those verification validation actions. You have to reference and identify the elements within the pages. So there is a lot of effort, right? Ultimately, this takes, a lot of programming experience and development project experience in order to become an expert. So when you look at Katalon at its core, we are a framework that uses Selenium libraries as well as Appium libraries, and being able to cover some of the RESTful GraphQL and SOAP UI libraries, and incorporate desktop testing as well. So being able to capture all of those different best practices from different frameworks, putting it all into one single framework within Katalon, being able to do web API, mobile, and desktop testing all in one in a single platform, and being able to integrate across different tool chains that you may be already using, from a CI/CD perspective, from a Git perspective, whatever it might be, is kind of the value proposition for Katalon in general, and that's what customers love about us. So with that, let me kind of pass it over to Suraj, who would walk us through the Selenium and Katalon converter and why this had occurred, right? A lot of customers today are moving from, Selenium to a pre-built framework. But the difficulty is, they've invested a lot of time and effort in creating those scripts in Selenium. And their first question is, how do I make this easier for me and not having to redo all of this work? That's what we are going to cover in today's session. So, Suraj, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Gokul. So I'm sure all of you must be equally anxious to see what is this converter all about, as in what we're talking about from the starting of the slide, as in. But team, let me tell you, before we go there, I just want all of you to understand, as in, what was the trigger point for us to even think about building or designing a converter like this, as in. So if you really see, many of our clients today also were really willing to move from open source to, let's say, something like Katalon, as in, where we see that it is adding a lot of value. I'm sure with the things that you heard from Gokul, you may have understood the kind of benefits which Katalon brings onto the table. But the challenge what we are also seeing while working with a few of our clients is, in, while the intent was there that yes, we want to move, but what about the effort which has already gone in developing so much of automation scripts, let's say on Selenium or maybe any other open source stack, as in. Because if we wish to move to a different tool altogether, knowing its benefits, of course, as in, but then how do we really come back with the kind of efforts which has gone in it? So that was a trigger point for us to rethink in terms of what can we really do for our customers and how can we really help them, as in. So there was, of course, depending upon the size of the projects, not that we may be working with any one project. We have seen our customers, in fact, working on multi-scale enterprise, large enterprise level programs, where you have almost more than 50 to 100 kind of projects, more than maybe what I can say 50 plus applications running all at the time, everything. Now, just imagine the kind of effort it may have taken for us to kind of redo the entire stuff and move to a different technology altogether. Or else we are just limiting ourselves because we do not want to invest the time which has already gone and we may continue with the same stuff as it. So we thought we'll build something which will help our teams to see how can this migration be very easy at a click of a button, and how can it really save a lot of time and effort both for all of you as well. In case if you would have really done, so if you see here, if you see at the point number 2 and 3, in case if this was not there, what could the problem could have happened, as in, well, we may want to move to Katalon, as in, but you would have had a team which would have worked on both Selenium and Katalon, because unless you move completely to a different tool, you may not even be able to give away with the current tool or technology that you're working with. So one is effort is anyways there as in, but the time also equally is getting invested as in. So what we did is we have come up with something like a very easy to kind of migration converter. Just you give some input. It's as easy that you pass some input to it and it gives you an output. In simple words, how a machine works, right? As in, you give something as an input to the machine processes something and it gives you an output as in. I'm just putting it very simple, and that's how it really works as in. So possibly now we'll just move to the next slide. If you can just move to the next slide, I'll give you an inside view of how this actual converter works together as in. So this is a kind of view in terms of how the actual process works as in. So basically it works on three main parameters if you see as in. Any typical project that you build on Selenium, or if you were any other tool as in, you will have a test case which is covering certain part of the functionality of an application. You may have certain objects or methods that you may have written to kind of identify the kind of objects on the application. And then third is you may have written certain, let's say, kind of variables or config files through which you are kind of rationalizing the complete ratio across the applications as well. So this converter is also kind of built on same different principles as well. It works in a sequential manner as well. So possibly, let's say first what it will work as in, it will pick up certain objects. Let's say it will go to the repository where all your keywords or objects are kept in. It will read all of those objects through the project program, and then it will just kind of convert, because Katalon supports, or it gives you a very good view in terms of a proper folder structure as in, where you can see all the objects placed in one particular folder. You can see all the test cases placed in another separate folder. Then you will see like profiles or config properties that you see which are placed in another folder. So there is a proper hierarchy which is maintained, and same kind of principle we used while we had started designing this converter. So exactly that's how it is working out here. We are just giving some input which you see in the dark color blue box which are highlighting. The white one is the method as in, there are three methods if you see. One is about converting the variable, second about objects, and third about test cases. And for every such method, it is taking an input and giving an output. So eventually when you come towards the end of this flow, and let's say assuming that all of it has run successfully, by the end of the project, you will have the entire project easily converted into Katalon as well. What remains for you manual thereafter is just to go and create a test suite, because that we want to leave it to the user to decide how many cases he or she may want to run in one particular test suite and on what kind of channels is it. So possibly some of the teams we have seen designing test suites for doing omni-channel testing, maybe cross-browser or cross-devices, etc. So that is the only activity where you have to go and just add the test case in your suite. Rest everything will get converted through this kind of converter. And I will obviously show you a demo as in which you will be able to see it live and be able to relate to what exactly I'm talking about. Okay, just moving on. If you can just move to the next slide. Gokul.
Yeah, sure. And there are a lot of people in the call who may not be aware of Katalon. Please feel free to reach out to me directly. Happy to set up time with you and walk you through it. Or we have multiple videos that we can potentially share with you as well. We do have a community of users. You can sign up for our academy or community to learn about Katalon and get certified too.
Yeah. So while we speak, I see there are a lot of questions coming in the chat.
I am handling that. Just don't worry.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Okay, so moving on, I spoke about what this converter is all about. I also give you an idea in terms of what was the triggering point for us to really think about building some kind of converter as well. And then I finally told you about how this converter works as well. So there are certain prerequisites, meaning certain terms and conditions, how you want to use this converter. So today this converter is built for any project which is built in Java language as well. Possibly in near future, we may also want to see if we can come up with an enhanced version which may support multiple languages as well. But today it works on Java language. It works on a proper page object model framework. It could be anything. It could be a BDD kind of framework built on the same structure. It could be a TestNG and likewise as well. But it supports all kind of frameworks which are built on Selenium, and that too on a Java programming language. So that is a prerequisite for you for now for using the current version of the converter.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully that's clear, right? The prerequisites for the converter. We are also building something similar for mobile, which will be released soon as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Go to the next
Yeah.
slide.
Yeah. So now just before we move to the demo, just one last slide I wanted to cover in terms of showing you. So this is the wow factor that we have seen. While it's not that we have launched, we have kind of tested this converter at multiple places on different kind of projects, different variety of projects, all built on Selenium, but obviously different frameworks, different methods, different kind of methodology where we have kind of used Selenium. So this is just one of those illustration that we are showing you here, a project which had almost around more than 500 odd test cases as in. If we were really willing to move from Selenium to Katalon, the effort could have been as high as almost 400 hours or man hours as in, which we could just bring it down to a mere 1 minute as in. I understand it's very hard to believe that can this really happen, but I will just show you a live demo and then possibly you will see that this is really a magic as in. And how does it work as in. But this is how it is that any kind of project, and believe me folks, I have just given a count of 500 out here. The more you have, the more volumes you have in projects, more number of test cases you have, the benefit is going to be much more as. So your time is not going to exponentially grow with your number of test cases as, because it has nothing to do with the volume. The speed with which it runs is just beyond imagination, I'm saying. So without taking much time, I understand all of you may be very curious to see how it works. And so I will want to share my screen, Gokul, if you allow me.
Oh,
Let the
absolutely.
team. Yeah. It's just like. So team, just let me know quick confirmation once you're able to see my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah.
Hello. Okay, yes. Yeah. Sure. So I'm just giving a quick view, first of all, in Selenium as it, because this is what probably many of you may have been working on as it. So let's say I have a demo project. I'm just showing you a very easy example of a small demo pilot project, which we have built on a standard page object model kind of framework as in. Let's say I have something called as pages as in, where I define my object, find my experts, properties, everything. And likewise, each page will have its own kind of objects and properties as well. So this is a kind of simple page factory or page object model framework. Then I may be maintaining something like test cases where I may be calling these pages to see how it works as in. So possibly, let's say I will open one of the test cases and then probably from here I may be calling the respective pages and objects. And then I may have something called as let's say a config file as in, okay, because certain global variables which I may not want to kind of declare in each and every test case separately. So in order to keep the maintenance of the scripts very low, possibly I may also define something called as a config file which I can use globally across the application. So I'm just giving you a very simple example of a project as in, which is built on the simple test engine kind of model. Now what we have done is the kind of same thing which I was explaining as in, let's say the converter will first kind of read all the pages one by one. It will kind of convert all the objects, keep it in that folder, read all the test cases from this test case file, then again keep it in the folder. And then finally it will come and read the config property particularly, and it will go and place it in the profile section of Katalon. So it has a one-to-one mapping between what section you pick up from Selenium, exactly what you go and put it in the folder there. Now I will show you exactly how this converter works. I'm just showing you the inside view purposely for all of you to just get an actual feel of how it works. So if you see here, there are two paths everywhere where I've given. So I am taking input path and then I'm giving you an output path. Let's say I will read the file. This is the input path which probably you will need to feed to the converter, where you are storing the config file and where you want to see the output file coming in. Example, where you have stored your object file, and all this will be maintained in a protein folder structure accordingly. So all this will be maintained for you. And once this is there, this is the only thing which you need to feed to the converter. The rest of the program and the package is already there. Now the moment I run, you will see everything coming out to Katalon in a click of a button. Now I'm just showing you the initial view before I'm running the converter. I don't have any profile. I don't have any test cases. I don't have any OR also. Because this is the place where majority of the time goes at the actual automation development. Test suite is just a mere thing which is a one-time activity. Once you have defined what test case you want to call, that is going to remain the same as it. But the majority of the time goes in building these objects, test cases, and profiles. So I'm just running the kind of program for you, and then I'll show you how the actual output comes up. You can just count the time also, how much it's taken. It's not even a minute as in possible, it's in seconds as in. And it is, in this case, I'm taking example of almost 300 odd cases which are getting converted.
Yeah, that's really cool, right? I mean, being able to just take your Selenium test, convert into Katalon in less than 60 seconds is just unheard of, right? A lot of our people have the same hesitation. So really, thank you, Suraj, for building this. This is really helpful.
Yeah. Now, while this is getting converted, I think most of the things were already good. I'm just coming back and I'll show you that how you can really see them. I'm just doing a refresh out here. Okay. Okay. We'll just go one by one. So now see, it has started loading the project. So you do not need to think too much about what is happening in the background, how is it processing, etc. Just think that you have to give this through converter an input and it will show an output. So I'm just showing you one by one. So let's say first I go and read the profile, which is the config file. I can see that automatically it has come under the profile section with complete data. Okay, what exactly I was kind of showing you here. Okay, I'm just coming back and showing you again. So this exact same file has automatically come out here. Now we'll go to the test cases. You will see all the test cases also coming out very beautifully here. Okay, all the test cases, you click of a button. And the important part, which we also realize when we are developing this converter, is about the reusability piece, which is a very important thing in any kind of development. That if I am developing a test case, when I automate a journey, I may want to call many of the existing test cases which are a part of that journey. So with that reusability, the entire stuff is coming in. So you see, there is nothing, everything is automatically kind of coming in for those respective test cases for every page. And likewise, you can also see the object repository at the end. Every object, you will see all the objects with those same properties, XPath that you had given there, everything is getting it. So just imagine what you just have to do is, anybody like me, I will just, if I am getting all of this readily available, I will just go create a new test suite and just call those test cases. Beyond this, there is one more activity which probably you will have to do is getting the data also mapped. So in Selenium, obviously you will have a data binder from where you will be reading the data. It could be an Excel spreadsheet or it could be a database, whatever it is. Similarly, one-time mapping.
So there's a couple of questions, right? One, is this built on Maven build or Gradle?
Yeah, Maven build.
Maven build. And then is it applicable for Selenium projects built using C# or only Java?
Right now, it's only Java.
Got it.
Yeah. So just continuing from the point where I left, and so I was saying that what is for you to do manual after, let's say, this converter. So that also you should understand that, okay, let's say assume that my converter is run successfully, I get everything readily available in Katalon. Now what next? If I have to execute these test cases, what is it that I have to do? So like I mentioned, there are only two things which you have to really come and do manually: defining the test suite, which is a one-time activity, and again just defining, mapping the data file against those test cases, which is again hardly maybe a 15 minutes or 30-minute job for us. So once this is done, you're ready to run your test suite across as many applications, as many browsers, channels, etc. that you want. That's how simple it is. I've just tried to make it as simple as possible. Any questions so far on what I presented?
I will read the questions. Are we done, Suraj?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there are two action items for this, right? So if you are interested in this offering of migrating from Selenium to Katalon, please email us. Email me directly at gokul.sridharan. I can type it. I've already typed it in the chat here at katalon.com. Feel free to email me directly. I will respond to you with the offering. And then, if there are any other questions, we are happy to answer. But this was a pretty straightforward, short demo. You should be able to see all of your tests migrate from Katalon to Selenium if you're using Maven and Java should be pretty quick and straightforward. Yes, the recording will be available after the session. We'll email everybody who registered for the webinar with the recording as well as the presentation. So last 2 minutes for questions and certifications on the migration, you mean? Or is certification on Katalon? You can join academy.katalon.com to learn about Katalon and get certified. The sample project. Suraj, the question is, would we be starting a sample project, right?
Yes. We'll obviously be sharing. I think there is another question about Python also. So obviously, yes, right now Python is not being supported, but already there is a work happening in the background to see that we'll come up with more programming languages also. In the current version, we are supporting only Java.
Okay. If there are no other questions, thank you very much for joining and spending your time. We really appreciate it. Look forward to a lot more conversions from Selenium to Katalon, right? Thank you. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Nice connecting with all of you. Bye.